to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, Lesley Myrick joins me on the show again. She first appeared in episode number 37 when she had been in business for just a year. She started out by freelancing in Canada. She struck out on her own in California and then started from scratch in Texas. In our episode number 73, we discussed how she was able to build her business from the ground up in new locations multiple times, relying on solid networking and content marketing strategies to help her forge new connections and succeed in her new places. Now, 4 years later, Lesley has actually moved to a new state once again, this time settling in Georgia. And once again, she's had to go back to ground zero and build up a new client base, a new network, and a new reputation. Today, Lesley is going to reflect on how she did this yet again and the lessons that she's learned through these last 4 years on building and growing her business, okay? So you think you got it tough being in the same town day after day, year after year, coming up with something to fill your pipeline. Think about 4 times in 4 years having to start over again, okay? Now, one of the great things that Lesley shares today is one of the things that helps her is that she has identified her ideal client. And she has identified this as high-achieving women who are ambitious, adaptable, and committed to personal and professional growth. She loves helping these driven women bust out of boring homes, okay? So she does this with this type of woman in designing, and she also coaches new interior designers in breaking away from previous careers, teaching you how to launch a kick-ass business that you love. All right, part of why Lesley is so successful at what she does is her organization and her commitment to getting things done. Our show sponsor, My Doma Studio, helps designers stay organized and driven as well. They serve as your complete interior design toolkit with a workflow software that keeps you organized with design projects from beginning to end. No matter where your client or your team is located, working remotely or in person, you can do it seamlessly. You can keep everything for a project in one place, from invoices to product specs to correspondence to client information, making organization simple. Sign up for your free trial at mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. Okay? mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. Okay, now let's see what Lesley has been up to and see and hear what she has to say about building a successful business when you're starting over in a brand new place again. Hi, Lesley. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business.
Hi, LuAnn. I'm so happy to be back talking to you again. This is great.
I am too. I have to say this, first of all, I'm an old lady, so don't take this anything other than full on love. We've just spent the last 25 minutes or so reconnecting and chatting off air, and the growth in you as a businesswoman and just, you impressed me way back in episode 37 when you cold pitched me to be on the podcast. I remember that. And it was an outstanding pitch. And I was impressed by you and your presence and your business savvy then. And I want to share with you that I noticed the next level of growth in you. And I don't mean that anything other than just actual admiration for you on your journey.
Well, thank you. That is such a compliment because I may have had some guts cold pitching you, but I mean, I was barely a year into, I knew nothing. Like I have grown, I have grown a lot. So thank you for giving me the chance to come back and expand on what we talked about, what feels like a million years ago now.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? And I have to say, I'm glad that you said that, because there was a part, what I remember, that you were in business so new, but you were so such a go-getter about it. It was like, I've got this new business and I've invested in coaching and these are the things I'm going to do. And, these are the things that I've done. And that's valuable to share to someone else who's only 1 year or about to start a business, to know that, yes, you can do it, but you actually do have to do it, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. And so here you are 4 years later, and lots of growth and lots of hindsight lessons, I'm sure, and also lots of things that you've done since then that weren't even on your radar at that moment, right?
Absolutely. I mean, things you could kind of make your plans, but you have to hold them loosely. I feel like life is so much more of an adventure when you are open to just kind of seeing where things go. And it doesn't mean you should be directionless, but make your plans, hold them loosely, and, see where the adventure takes you as you go and as you grow.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, is I don't know that I remembered this part until I was refamiliarizing myself with the information that you sent me this time and looking over your bio and different things. I didn't remember that you had come from working with some big interior design firms to begin with. So that's always important, too, when we are looking to teach and inspire younger designers behind you, that it is entirely possible to start by opening your own business. But there is something to be said for having spent some time working for someone else's firm. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I always sort of admired young designers who just graduated from college and started their businesses. And it took me 10 years of working and learning and growing and making mistakes before I really had the courage to go out on my own. So I am beyond grateful for what I've learned working for different designers over the years, because not only did I learn a lot of things to do in my business and a lot of ideas to make it successful, I learned a lot of things that I didn't want to do. And I say that with transparency because that's it. And, I was on Kimberly Seldon's Business of Design podcast a while ago now, and we had this exact conversation because at that time it was a difficult season to be working in her firm, and I learned, but I'm grateful for it. Mm-hmm. I learned so much from her, both in the positive and in that season sort of things of, okay, this is how she's doing things. This isn't necessarily how I want to do them. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean anything was bad or wrong. It's just so interesting to learn from others and take what you like, leave the rest, and figure out what's going to work the best for you and how you want to grow your business and run your business.
Right. I agree with it 100%. And I also just want to say that you had a moment there where you said, well, and it took me 10 years to get the courage. And the thing is, I hear that, and I don't discount your feeling of that. But I think that it should sometimes take some time and some information gathering and some work and experience to start a business. And again, anybody can just come out the gate and start it. We've had many designers on the podcast do it. Right at the top of my head, I'm thinking of Darla Powell, who went from being a detective, in Miami-Dade to opening her interior design firm. I'm thinking Sarah Brennan, who went from teaching biology to middle school students and opening her design firm. And I'm thinking of Kelsey Gross from Farmer's Daughter, who was, running and working in her family farm. And I'll never forget, she said to me, I used to drive around in the tractor, out in the fields, listening to your show, designer after designer, teaching me how to do the business. And I just decided to do it. So there's no question there's a path for that. But I just would pull you back on, I don't think it took you 10 years to get the courage. You just were gathering your information, your experience, and then the courage is a moment, right?
I think that is a great way to put it, is that it took that time to get the experience to learn. And then it's funny you mentioned it's a moment, because I remember the exact moment I was like, F this, I'm done, I'm going on my own. Like it was a yes. So I absolutely feel that. And it was that, just like, it confirmed all those little nudges in me that were like, one day I want to have my own business. One day I want to work for myself. And then in that moment, in that photo studio doing a shoot, it's like, all right, we're good. It's time. Let's do this.
Well, and you know what's funny is if you I'll tell everyone listening, if you go back and listen to the episodes with Kelsey Gross and Darla Powell, and I'll put the episode numbers in the show notes, it was a moment like that for them too. And and I know it because I got the email. Like, literally sent me an email and said, LuAnn, I've been a Miami-Dade police officer for, 15 years or whatever it was, and I've been listening to your podcast, yada, yada. And today I gave in my resignation and I opened up, I am Darla Powell Interiors today. And of course now she's Wingnut Social, right? On top of it. I mean, amazing.
She's amazing.
Yeah. She's like her growth. And, that's, you want to talk about an entrepreneur and a creative and a leader sitting there, just waiting to be born. I mean, what would we do without her in the industry, right?
Yeah.
So, but interesting. And so what was your moment? Why were you had been percolating on having an interior design firm? What were you doing?
I had always very much romanticized the idea of working for myself. And I always thought of myself as not an entrepreneur, not a business owner type. But it's so funny looking back on my childhood, like all the things that I did to try to earn money or start little businesses. It's like, all right, fine, maybe I was meant to do this. But when I was living in the Los Angeles area, I used to work for a home retailer at their corporate headquarters. And one of my jobs was designing and styling sets for catalog and for web. It was not residential interior design. It was very much for a corporate retailer, but it was still a great way to be in that world, designing sets, coming up with cool ideas. And I can remember doing a dining room shoot. It was something to do with promoting different dining chairs. So I had this cool loft set built in a studio and, a very simple dining table, and it had 8 different chairs. I love eclectic mismatched chairs. And, the colors were great, and I had done great floral design and fruit. And I mean, I was the happiest with this photo shoot that I had ever been with any single shoot I had done in my nearly 4 years at this retailer. I was like, I loved it. I was over the moon. I was so proud of myself. And the company's chief creative officer walked in. She always got the final say on photos. And she sort of stood there, pursed her lips, and she had this very distinct voice. And all she said was, "I don't like it." I almost burst out laughing. I wasn't offended. In my mind, I was like, "You're crazy, lady. This is the best thing I've ever done." And at that time, we were starting to transition from California to Texas. I was already kind of playing around with maybe this is the time to take the leap. And that moment, I was like, yes, I want to call the shots. I want to be the art director. I don't want someone above me to come in and just say they don't like it with no helpful critique.
That's it. Independence Day, right? Here it is.
Oh, it was. It was so fierce. And it was just that, like, yes, I can do this. Because I think if I hadn't believed in the shot, I would have been crushed by that. I mean, I don't take criticism well. I think it's hard for a lot of people to take criticism, especially when it isn't constructive. But, a few years ago, a critique like that would have just withered me. And in that moment, I stood taller and I was kind of like, oh yeah, you don't like it? All right, I'll fix it. But this photo's amazing and I'm keeping this for my portfolio. And it's been a slice.
Well, see, and isn't that the moment too? Because now after the last 4.5 years of being in your own business, you've had other moments like that. I'm 100% sure. And you're going to have them as you go across in your many years to come in business. I can tell you that firsthand, because that is what happened. It's when you know something, then you know it. And so at that moment, like you said, a year or 2 years before that, you might have been crushed or withered because you still were finding your feet as the art director, as whatever that position was, right? Whatever you called it. But once you could look at it and say, this is objectively amazing work, and I don't need your approval on it. Now, I need your approval on it because you're my boss and we're going to change it under your conditions, blah, blah, blah. But internally, your internal compass is, I'm sorry, you're out of your mind because this is fabulous, right?
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And of course, I would never say that, but it's like, I'm ready. I'm ready. I know it in my bones. I am ready to do this.
Well, and it's the same. I know that you listen to the show, and of course, you've had the experience, I'm sure, by now. It's that same learning curve when we talk about on the podcast all the time, Lesley, about turning away the client that's not for you and how hard it is to do that when you're building a business, because every client matters, every piece of revenue matters. But we learn over time that saying yes to clients, it's one thing when you say a yes to a client and you haven't developed the chops or the business sense to know that they're not the right client at hello. But you do get to the point where you sort of are like, hello, and you're probably not my lady, right? And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's not a lot past hello that you usually get that little voice that says, not a great match. But the problem is I mean, the analogy is there is a moment as a business owner, as an interior designer, where you'll have the moment like you had with your boss, where you'll just say, client, you're not my client, and I don't need you more than you need me. And even though I would like to have another project in my pipeline, I know that this ends badly, so I'm going to say no. It's that same growth, right?
Absolutely. And I'm definitely the type that I'm very intuitive, and I find that I can get a sense about people pretty quickly. But then there's also the flip side of that where I don't want to be judgmental and write someone off before getting to know them. But LuAnn, I can assure you that every single time I have gone forward with a client where I had some sort of hesitation, something talking to me early on, it didn't end well, or it was a terrible process, or something happened where it frankly wasn't worth it, and I should have listened to that gut feeling. So I'm getting better at that. And
but it comes because it comes. So like the point is that maybe it comes at the 4th year, maybe it comes at the 6th year, whatever it is. But the point is, it's that same moment that you had with the art director. You just went, I don't know. No, I know what I know, and I'll do what you want, but I'm out of here. I'm going to do my own thing. And it will be the same if it's not already experiencing with your clients. I have to say, I have empathy for you guys as interior designers, because your projects do tend to be much, much longer than a window treatment project. So I have the same voice when I am working with somebody and I think to myself, no, this is not going to be good. But with a window treatment project, we could potentially close a window treatment project out in as small as 3 weeks, depending on what the product are and how complicated it is. And of course, it can go 3 months, also, depending on the scope of it. But the idea is I'm never looking at being hooked up with somebody for 3 months to 6 months or to a year, right? With the way you guys are. And I think that's why it's so important that that's one of the skill sets that you develop as a business owner especially the interior design field. Is a lawyer would have the same thing. Anybody that has that long-term relationship with somebody, because you can't turn it into something good if it's not.
Absolutely.
Right.
And, to quote a woman who I know you love too, Nancy Ganzakoffer, niche is rich and broad is broke. And I love that phrase of hers, because that also helps me filter clients, because just because someone has money and wants to pay me to design something does not mean it's going to be a good fit. And so, it is so counterintuitive. And I think a lot of designers fight this, myself included. I'm really only kind of getting my strength in this now, but niche, I say niche, not niche. Sorry, Nancy, but niching down is really how you find those best clients. That's and right. When you have some great clients under your belt, you can start to figure out, okay, what are the similarities? What do they have in common? The projects that were profitable, the projects that had a great experience, who were these people? And how can I try to find more of them instead of just taking anybody with a pulse and a checkbook who might be an okay client because I'm scared to say no?
Right. Exactly. And of course, we always have to do the caveat. When you're building a business, you will say yes more often when you really feel like you want to say no because you're building the business. But even then, there needs to be some thoughtful consideration of the ones that really, it's not just a tiny little red flag, it's this, blaring horn.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So you have done a lot of things. And interestingly, on the first podcast episode that you were here, we talked about how you were moving from Los Angeles to Texas and the tactics that you did in order to start a business in a new place where you didn't have a network of friends, family, or anybody, let alone clients. And
Right.
now you've done it again by moving to Georgia, and you have not only reviewed the tactics that you did the first time, you've improved upon them, and you've decided that some were better than others in hindsight. And so today you want to share with us one of the other things, before I say that, is one of your specialties, in addition to interior design, is that you are now coaching other designers that are coming. Your specialty there, your niche is designers coming to design as a second career, and that's why this quick startup, this process for getting off the ground is appropriate. Tell us a little about how they intersect there.
Yeah, well, I have had to start a business now 3 times. Like you mentioned, I started on my own in the Los Angeles area. We lived in Pasadena, and that was only about 6 months. That was really when I started working with a business coach and figuring out my plan. But I did have a couple of clients locally in California, and I was really setting up to move to Texas, where we know 0 people. And so we moved. I chatted with you, and I spent 4 years there growing and building and getting connected. And, I would say go back and listen to the episode because it's good, but don't take all the advice because I've learned more since then. So come back to this one. But, I joined local networking groups. I had a magazine column with a local magazine. I did all the things to try to figure out what would work. And now moving to Georgia, we're just outside Atlanta in Macon, Georgia. Again, I knew nobody here. I mean, this is a whole new state and place. I'm from Canada. Like, this is all literally so foreign to me, living now in 4 different states and, figuring life out down here. But yeah, I took what I learned starting in Texas. I learned what worked better, what worked faster. I learned what really wasn't giving the ROI over time, what wasn't worth my time, energy, or money. And I've shifted things to start differently here in Georgia. And we've been here just barely a year now. And of course, there was a global pandemic in the midst of that. So admittedly, that has slowed things down. I have not been able to network. I haven't been able to speak as much or connect as much locally, but that doesn't mean I'm not still working on things here. So all that to say, I would consider myself fairly skilled at this point in starting a brand new business. I have now done it really 3 times. Even more if you consider me dabbling in freelance when I still lived in Canada, but that's unofficial. So my mission is really to help brand new designers. Most of my clients, I think actually all of them, are women who have worked in another career first, usually something totally different. One recent coaching grad, Laura, that I work with, she was an accountant for 10 years and always had this creative side, and she had an amazing skill set from that 10-year career, but no design degree, no idea how do you charge for a project, all the things that we learned from school and listening to podcasts and connecting with other designers in our industry. These are the kind of things that a lot of new designers struggle with. And so I put together an awesome coaching package where we do 6 months of coaching. And I also give designers all the business documents they need because there's so many things. I mean, God, it took me years, LuAnn, to figure out I need this clause in my contract. Oh, I need to be keeping track of that. And so those are all the things that I share because I really want people to fast track and not have to go through what I went through to try to get started and just stumble. I felt like it was just, 2 steps forward, 1 step back for years and years and years. And now I know it is something that can be done with more purpose and focus and planning and the right tools and the right things in the right place to get going quickly especially when you're in a place where maybe you don't already have a network, like you said.
Right, right. It's one thing, it's difficult enough to start a business in the town community that you've been living in another career even. It's another thing to move to a whole new area and not have any sort of network base. So how many of us, our businesses start out with doing our friends and family and relatives and neighbors, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So I love it. I think it's awesome. So tell us some of the boots on the ground activities that you really find are some of the things that are more worthwhile spending your time doing when you are trying to build your business. And I would say this could even apply to revitalizing a business, correct?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I talked in the last episode about joining local networking groups, the really structured kind where there's weekly meetings and all that kind of stuff. And I know some groups are great. I found that I wasn't getting the ROI over time. And what I have found to be a better use of my time and my resources is appearing as a guest speaker. So Rotary clubs, Optimists, if you have a 1 Million Cups chapter near you. I have spoken several times. And I know there's probably a lot of younger designers going, but what would I talk about? I'm not an expert. And I assure you, to a room full of other professionals who don't know design, you know more than they do.
You're
and
right.
You have something valuable to teach them. But I can think of 2 specific examples where I spoke at an event and somebody that has seen me speak called me and hired me. I realize that won't be the story every time, but
Sure.
I've been fortunate that 2 of I don't even know, handful of times that I've spoken, I think it really does a ton to build trust, to build credibility, to position yourself as an expert when you're in a new location, to appear as an expert. So I've sort of switched my strategy from weekly networking groups that really take, if you've ever been part of them, you know, they're a lot of time, they're an investment, they're great in certain industries, but the one I was in Waco wasn't a phenomenal fit for me. And so this has been an improvement I've made here in Georgia that's been helpful. Sorry.
No, because what I wanted to ask you there was, give us an example of maybe the title of the topic that you have spoken about on design, just so we have an idea of, because, you know, everybody's thinking, well, what do I talk about?
Yeah. So during COVID, I was invited to speak at a Rotary club, and it ended up being a virtual meeting, which, by the way, super weird to be brand new in a group and be on Zoom talking to them. But I did a 20-minute presentation on how to make your home office awesome.
Oh, great.
Everybody has switched to working at home. People, literally, LuAnn, I'm in a closet right now. I have made a recording studio. I mean, you don't have to have anything fancy to have a great work at home space. And so that's what I was able to share on. I mean, the tips were not groundbreaking, but it was just stuff people needed to hear in a very concise, actionable to-do list of here's how you can make this better. And that immediately positioned me as an expert. And I had a client reach out to me that day to hire me, which is phenomenal. So
I love it.
Little things. Yeah. You don't have to teach on everything that you've ever learned in your 10 years, but to really niche down, find one topic that you can share something on of value.
I love it because I do know that designers particularly, I think, underestimate the vast knowledge and value that they have, but many of us do. We forget we don't know already we already forgot what we didn't know we knew, right? And so we underestimate that what we do so easily and so naturally is not so easy and so natural to others. And I was, for me, like one of my daughters, also an executive, all of a sudden was forced to be working from home. And one day I'm getting these text images of a buffet for her dining room. And basically it came because she's been in the house at this point, probably 5 or 6 weeks she was in the house. And there are spaces that she was never getting around to decorating. And so she's texting me. She goes, what do you think about this mirror for over the buffet, you know, the sideboard in the dining room? And I remember looking at it, Lesley, and I'm thinking, well, how about we'd like address the sideboard? The sideboard isn't right. Like the sideboard is too small for the wall. And now this mirror over it is going to be, you know, too big for that sideboard. But is the sideboard going to get bigger? And I just texted her. I'm like, we're in a rabbit hole here. I said, I can't answer this one question. There's 20 others. But the point was that if she had come across on Facebook or an organization how to design your dining room and pick the proportion for your sideboard and your whatever, it would have been groundbreaking to her, because I ended up giving the tutorial to her, and she's, oh, I see all of that now. And I'm like, and what are we doing with the bar cart there? Like, is that extra? Like, what is that? So it's just funny, because you really don't have to have a groundbreaking topic. Just something that's helpful is the point.
Absolutely.
Right?
Helpful is so important. You don't want to be this high and mighty expert where things feel intangible, or here's an example of my latest $20 million remodel. Like, okay, great. That's your client. Go for it. But I'm going to guess most people don't work on projects like that. And so to find ways to connect with people who are your ideal clients, for me, my ideal clients are successful, ambitious female entrepreneurs, people who are business owners, CEOs, who value a great office space, whether it's at home or otherwise.
Right. And she would have been your ideal client. I should have told her to call you. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I love that. That's a great twist, rather than, and of course there's no negative to being part of the organizations as well, even if it's an organization that you enjoy being part of, but to put yourself in the hat, to speak in front of them and let everybody see that you do have an expertise and you do have something to offer them on a personal level if they want to hire you, right?
Bingo. I just found with weekly groups where there was a firm commitment, not only a time commitment, but membership fees and lunch costs, I was not getting the return on that investment, the time or the money. And there might be other groups that would have been a better fit, but I didn't have time to figure that out. And I have realized, for me, appearing as a speaker, being an expert is something that it's almost taken this networking to like an exponential curve. It's so much faster, and I'm finding the right people quicker this way.
Love it. I love it. Awesome. So, and moving on, I know you have a dozen different ways for people to build their business.
Yeah. Well, one thing I didn't do in Texas, and I don't know why, because this was dumb, is I've started doing paid Google ads. I think it's very scary to start out with paid advertising, especially when you have a small budget and you don't have a lot of clients, you don't have a lot of money to spend. But I am definitely finding being able to target Google ads is getting me in front of the right people that I wouldn't otherwise get to meet. So that's been great to grow my email list. I've had a couple clients just find me on Google and purchase packages, which is wonderful. And speaking of Google, I have been really intentional about playing nice with Google. Google likes when you do what it wants. And so if you don't have a Google My Business page, get that up and running. I do posts on Google My Business. They're super simple. I usually just do a image from my blog post and a little teaser and a link to the blog. But if you're going to give Google fresh content, it's going to show you higher and better in organic search results. So just little things like that might take 5 minutes a week. And I also have started creating a bunch of freebies. My goal this year, I've got my main opt-in on my website, and I'm talking more right now about email list building. Also works for local, but just in general, growing the business. I have my main opt-in on my website, which has been really successful, and it's my How Much Does It Cost to Decorate a House ebook. And it is room by room broken down with real budgets, because that's a question people always want to know the answer to, and it's not widely available to figure out what you actually need to be prepared to spend. But in addition to that, I've been doing smaller opt-ins, once a month on my blog. For example, recently I had an area rug size guide that was a free download. I've had styling cheat sheets, my kitchen checklist, all of those little things now live on a freebies page on my website. And those are great. Google likes when you give people things, and lots of people click on that. And so that's been another way as well, optimizing those for SEO, sharing them on Google, sharing them on my own blog to, have people that are searching for those things get on my email list and get a great, valuable freebie, something worth paying for free, to build trust in me and know that I'm the right designer for them.
I love that. So, but I want to pick it apart a little bit. So
Sure.
We're saying, of course, I love when something's so obvious. It's like, Yeah, why didn't I think about that? Of course, if you're going to feed the googly man, the googly man's going to love you, right? Like, hello,
Man.
right?
It can't hurt.
Right. Okay. So, because I have, the Google, my business page in my WindowWorks life is the stepchild that nobody pays attention to. It's, I think I looked at it during COVID. I was like, that's not even what our building looks like anymore. And I'm like texting everybody in our group chat for all of our employees, does somebody have an actual picture of what the building looks like now? And then I got it, and I don't even think I took the next step of changing it. So there's that, okay? Which is me. I'm now making a separate note on a piece of paper. Thank you, Lesley, to do that.
My pleasure.
You're telling me that I can go in onto my Google, my business page, and like put a post that says, hey, ever wonder how much it costs to decorate each room in your house, and stick that there? Or maybe it's the smaller one, the how to size an area rug, or that was two separate things that you were talking about?
Two separate things.
Okay.
So in Google My Business, and forgive me, I don't have it open in front of me, but I think right at the top there's an option to like share an offer, promote a product, write a post. And it's a little thing. I'm not making new content for it. I'm literally taking an image and maybe the first paragraph of a blog post and then linking to that content. So if someone does find me in a search, there's going to be, it's going to show up as there's something new from me, and it's something good. It's something you're going to want to click through to see. So even if they don't click on my website or call me, they might be like, oh, I'd like to know how much that area rug, or I'd like to know how big that area rug should be. I'm going to get that. So I'm just trying to find ways to grow my email list and give a lot of value, things that people would be looking for and wanting to know.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And that is, again, to our first point with what do you speak about to an organization. It is the most silly, basic things that the rest of us struggle with knowing. How do you size an area rug? Is the sofa and the cocktail table and the other chair supposed to be on it? Are they supposed to be off it? Like, what happens with this? And even like the dining room is the age-old question. It's like, when you pull the chair out, does the chair still stay on it? Or how can I do that? Because now it would be all the way to the wall and that would look silly. Like, there's 1,000 little nudgy things. This is why you're professionals.
Yep, they're things that we have either been taught in school or know intuitively, or both, and they're so natural and obvious for us, we forget that most people don't know these things. That's why there's so much bad design out there.
That's
and
right.
Area rugs that are too small and chandeliers that are too small, because proportion and scale is something that sets a designer apart from the average homeowner, shopping on the internet and furnishing their room. And so that is definitely a topic that could be shared with you as an expert, whether it's in a presentation, on your blog, in some sort of freebie, on a webinar. That's the kind of stuff that elevates design, and everyday people will look to you and say, that is the designer I want to work with. She knows her stuff.
Awesome. I love it. And these little guides that you have as available as freebies on your website, when we say little guides, are they 1-pagers? Are they 5-pagers? What are they?
They are usually, I want to say, anywhere from like 4 to the budget guide's more like 11 or 12 pages.
Right.
But usually there's I do these all in Canva, which is totally free. It's a great software program. There's usually a cover page, some sort of, welcome letter introducing me, explaining what the freebie is, and an invitation to work with me. I'm not going to miss a chance to by the way, you can hire me too. And then I give the content. So the rug size guide is 2 pages of actual content. The budget guide, like I said, all in with the worksheets and the room by room breakdown, I think it's 11 pages. So the little ones are smaller, like, they go along with the blog post. My big opt-in is meaty, and I wanted to make sure it was something that people really felt like, holy crap, like she just gave me a ton of great information.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Awesome. So awesome. The thing about these things is they're great ideas. They're a little bit, it takes a commitment to execute and carry them to completion. So good for you on doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's work for sure. I block out Mondays for blogging and marketing, creating these opt-ins. Monday is not a client day for me. It is really grow my business, keep creating content, and making sure that I have great things to share.
Love it. That's a great tip right there, to just block Mondays for working on the business, whether that's creating content and, everything. Love it. Great idea. Okay. All right. And then I see that, have you had luck with Harrow and things like that? Help a reporter out?
Yeah. So I will say a lot of people, myself included, always hope that press is like a magic bullet, that somebody will see your name or see your work and hire you. And that is almost never, ever what happens with it. But I don't think it hurts for someone to go to my website and see that I have been mentioned or featured in Redbook Magazine, LuAnn, Realtor.com, the Boston Globe, HGTV. I mean, there's lots of opportunities I've had from Harrow and otherwise for media mentions and having my images used in articles. And like I said, it's never resulted in a direct, I saw you on LuAnn and hired you, but I think it looks pretty darn cool when you go to someone's website and you're like, oh, they know their stuff. They are an expert in their industry. They are being mentioned. They're being featured. They are worthy of being part of these design publications and having something to share. So that's something that I subscribe to the Harrow emails. I would say half-ish of the ones that I pitch get published, maybe slightly less, but never hurts to have, your name and your website backlinked from a reputable design publication. It only helps grow your business and, have you seen as an influencer and an expert.
I love it. It's awesome. And if you're listening, you haven't heard of it, HARO is Help a Reporter Out. And basically it's a platform that you go up and you sign up. It's free, right? If I recall, it's free.
It is free for, I think if you are posting something on there, if you're media, you pay, but for people who want to help a reporter out, it is free.
Right. And you basically, if I recall, you sort of input your areas of expertise. So if you say to somebody that you're in the design field, that you're maybe you are expertise is, for you it might be coaching to startup design businesses, interior design, art, that's part of your background is art direction and art placement and so forth. So you just list all the different areas. And then when there is an opportunity and a reporter is in the middle of doing an article of some sort and they need a quote from an expert in that area, they'll put it out there and say, I need somebody to talk about XYZ. And then you pitch, you fill in your credentials and then maybe you're selected, right? If I recall, that's how it works.
That's exactly right. Now you have to filter through hundreds useless one, like dog food bakers needed. I'm like, no, I'm good. But there are some gems in there, yes. And it's worth it. Especially if you have an assistant, this is a great thing to have an assistant scan.
Well, you know what's interesting is that I don't know if because I know you listen to the show, but of course I don't know if you listen to every show, right? So Deborah Damari, who is the founder of vegandesign.org.
Yes, I remember that episode.
Yes. She and I met each other through Harrow.
No way.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes. And of course, now 5 years later, we are like such good friends. I mean, actually crossed to personal friendship for Deborah and myself. And so, but it's funny because you just never know what comes from it.
Yep. And sometimes they'll say what media outlet it is, and sometimes it's just anonymous. So you kind of have to roll the dice and see. But I've ended up with some good ones that I didn't know that's where I was going to be mentioned. It's like, I'll take it. Right. And then some others I'm less thrilled about, so I just don't share those, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Interesting. Very interesting. And then what else are we going to say here that you've been doing that's been growing your business?
Well, I have been doing a weekly Facebook and Instagram live show for a while called Bust Out of Boring. That's what I'm all about, helping high-achieving women bust out of boring homes. And I started doing that as a weekly Facebook Live. I then got smart and set up my phone as well. So then I would also send that to Instagram Live. And now, like, I had this dummy moment a few months ago. I'm like, I need to be taking this and leveraging it. Like, this is me, raw and real and sharing and on camera. And so now I turn that weekly Facebook Live show, it's usually 5 to 10 minutes. I turn it into a podcast, the Bust Out of Boring podcast. The transcript loosely becomes the framework for a blog post that'll go out, a week or two after the episode airs. I upload that same Facebook Live video to YouTube. It gives me content to talk about in my weekly emails, and that blog post can break down into social media posts. So doesn't do the dishes? If only. Yeah, it's one of those things that I've been doing video for a while. I mean, long game, I would love to do TV. I've had some opportunities come very close, haven't gotten anything yet, but it's still on the table, LuAnn. I'm working on it. And so every week, I really started doing this just as practice being on camera, practice talking and showing up.
Being
and
prepared
now it's
to get lucky, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, for the first, 6 months, I mean, it was like I want to barf and die every time I did it. It was not easy. And it's funny today because getting ready to talk with you, I haven't been nervous to do an interview or be on camera in ages. And my heart was pounding. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I have to talk to LuAnn today. And so, of course, as we get going, it is so easy and fun and wonderful. But all that to say, what started as, let's just do some videos to get practice, I've realized, hey, this is great content. And not everybody's on Facebook to watch it. Not everybody's on Instagram Live or IGTV. Not everyone reads my newsletter. So I'm able to take that same content on brand, what I would be talking about maybe in a blog post anyway, and I'm able to really leverage it to a bunch of different platforms and reach different people with amazing. The same message.
That's amazing. I have to say, the only things you didn't mention are LinkedIn and Pinterest, but you probably just didn't mention them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I upload the video to LinkedIn directly, and I do a little blurb about it. And then when it becomes a blog post, I have a Pinterest-friendly graphic in each of my blog posts that I then pin. So you are correct.
I had a suspicion. That's really, I mean, we have had that conversation as well on the podcast about the repurposing of content. But what's interesting to me is it's a 5 to 10 minute video that you are stretching out the legs on it to that level. That's pretty fantastic.
It saved me a ton of time. And I can tell you, being home during COVID and quarantine, my kids right now are 6.5 and almost 3. So you can imagine I don't have a lot of time. I don't have the same time I once did with both kids in school and daycare full time. So this has partly been out of necessity, but it's also just best business practice. It gives me my time, and it means I can spend one day a week on content creation, on marketing, on blog posts, hammering out the Facebook Live, pushing it out as a podcast. And then I have 3 solid days for design clients and coaching clients. And then Friday is kind of a freebie, whatever I need to get done, or in the summer, I can take it off if need be. So this has really helped me grow and keep my sanity and not have business growth mean that I am working 16-hour days and, constantly doing this.
Wow. That's incredible. Good for you. Outstanding. And so I wanted to go back to one of the questions I realized I didn't pick up on. You said that your goal was to create 1 free opt-in a month in 2020.
Yeah.
And that was along the lines of the area, how to size an area rug and yada, yada. So my question is, why? In other words, if it's to build the email list, is it, and I don't mean why because I know why to build the email list, but is it because that mention of just putting who knows who is attracted to what piece of content, and so therefore it's just, it's like having pepperoni pizza and buffalo chicken pizza and artichoke pizza, right? It's just keep putting different things out and attract different people.
Exactly. And I knew I didn't want to be messy on my webpage and be like, get this free thing, get that free thing, or do this, or book a call, because that's not how you don't want to spread yourself too thin. So like I mentioned earlier, I have my main opt-in, which is my budget guide. And that's what you'll find on my homepage, on the footer of every page. There's an opt-in for that. But then I've started sprinkling these other ones into blog posts, kind of like a value add or a bonus. So they read this great blog post, maybe I'll share how to the rug, for example. I'll have a couple examples of, here's a couple ideas for a bedroom. By the way, if you want to know more about area rug sizes for your bedroom, living room, and dining room, you can grab your free guide right here. Okay. And then what I ended up creating was a page on my website. It's just lesleymyrick.com/freebies, and everything lives there. So people don't have to dig through blog posts. It's not confusing people when they first come to my homepage. But I don't know about you, but when I discover someone new who, maybe it's someone who does social media or content or something that I want to learn from, if they've got like a free download page or a free resources, I'm there first,
right?
So that I can get their stuff. And yeah, it's been a nice way to have it simple and accessible without being cluttery. And then it's in the blog post too, if people find it that way. I've tried to make sure that it is not diluting my message and I'm not sending people too many directions, but they're also all SEO friendly, like I mentioned. So if someone is looking for a kitchen design checklist or how big should an area rug be, I'm hoping they will land upon these and get on my email list and get the guide, and we'll start a relationship from there.
I love it. That's awesome. And I'm glad. Thank you for the clarity on that, because that makes perfect sense. You have the main giveaway on the website instead of 50, but
Right.
when you write a blog post, it's, maybe I came to your website and I saw the main giveaway and I don't really care what the budget is for every room, but I am interested in this blog post that you're talking about, and during that blog post you're offering the giveaway for something, the size of a chandelier, the size of an area rug, and now there's another opportunity for you to get me on the email list. I love that. And
Exactly
it's funny
it.
because I came to the same realization, of course, back in the beginning of the podcast. I did a great job almost every episode of doing the download for the episode, where it was, hey, that was awesome, and this is what we learned, and if you want to know what the things I learned from Lesley Myrick on A Well-Designed Business, go to, then it was welldesignedbusiness.com. I don't know what the hell it was, but /Leslie, and you would get your free PDF. And it went by the wayside the busier I got, quite frankly. But also when we randomly do it again, and we are going to, it's one of our initiatives for Q4 in 2020 is to be much more intentional and go back to that. But when we had a discussion, Nicole Heimer, who is one of my gurus that helps me with all things like this, and my daughter Christy, who runs the social for us. And I said, the individual stuff is making me crazy. And so we came up with LuAnnIgara.com/goodies. And
oh yeah.
Yeah. So if I put something there once a month or every month, just go get everything that's there. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And so that's one of our initiatives for Q4 is to start to build that library of freebies up again, because it's very scant right now, but it is what's there is important is the point,
Yep.
right?
And they have to be good. I mean, you've got like 500 and something episodes of this podcast. You can't have a freebie every time. People are going to just gloss over. But if you can really be selective and really valuable things, then people are going to be really hungry for them and excited when they are available.
Well, and my thing was more like, why do I want to keep signing up for this every time? Like,
Yeah.
can I just get in the door? Yes, you're in the door. Here, come. So anyway, now there's something else that you said here that I thought was really interesting, that you improved your consultation call script thanks to the book, The Introvert's Edge by Matthew Pollard. And are you going to tell me you're an introvert? Like, really?
100%, LuAnn.
Oh, my
I am an
goodness.
introvert. I love one-on-one. This is my jam. Give me a coffee date with a friend and I am good to go. Give me people at a party and it takes me a lot to ramp myself up. Networking events, I do them. I mean, maybe that's why I like speaking. I don't have to talk to as many people.
You're speaking
No,
by
I am
yourself,
definitely an
right?
introvert. Exactly. No, I need alone time and time to process. And this book, I came across it by accident, The Introvert's Edge. I stole my 2-year-old daughter's Kindle and I was like, oh, I can read books on this. And it was one of the free ones with Amazon Prime. And it was phenomenal. And what changed this for me, and the reason I put this improve my consultation script on our talking points, is because I would have consultation calls and they didn't turn into actual clients as often as I would like. And I realized reading this book, as weird as it sounds to have an actual script you use, and I'm not just talking like general questions, but I mean, this is a word for word multi-page script that I have practiced many times and gotten natural at sounding. It has been a complete game changer at converting potential clients into actual clients who are excited and don't have questions because they've really understood what I'm offering and what we're going to be doing together. So the consultation call script is actually a free download on my website if anyone's curious. It's at lesleymyrick.com/coaching. And it has been, I mean, I can't even tell you, when the first time I used it, I hung up and I had just like booked a design consultation and she wanted to do 2 bedrooms. Like, I was like, wait, what? That was too easy. I didn't have to try to convince you or talk you into things. And that has made the few leads that I have gotten all the much more likely to become clients and to become great clients who can then refer me and help me grow my business here.
That's incredible. And so in reading the book, Lesley, was it simply a tool to unlock your own personal thoughts and reflections on what you do so that you were and comfortable expressing it? Or did the book also be able to teach you what were the things that were valuable to have in a consultation, whether you're pitching a design client or a new lawyer client. You know what I'm saying? Where was the difference? Like, what was the magic of the book?
So a huge part of the book was talking about sharing your stories. And I mean, I know we all know this. We all hear about how important this is, blah, 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 blah. And I think it's so easy to glaze over it. But he gave some great examples of different professionals, how they tweak their marketing message to help them stand apart in their industry. Niche is rich and broad is broke. And really gave examples of how you can tell your stories, tell your client story, make your business relatable to your potential clients on the phone. And I think the last couple chapters of the book is an actual call script. It wasn't an interior designer, but it was great information on how to structure the script and how to walk people through it, where to share client stories, how to engage people. And I mean, this took me a little while, but I kind of went through and I just typed out my own version based on what I had learned from that script and tweaked it for me and my business, put in my own client stories. And then I could really be on the phone with people. And instead of just, okay, well, this is what you need and here is X package and it costs Y dollars, it was, you're exactly the client I want to work with. I had another client just like you. This happened, X, Y, and Z. Here was the result. Yes, she was nervous too about investing, but this is what happened. And it just takes the awkward out and makes it a much more human, relatable phone call. And it did take some getting used to reading a real script. I had always had, the questions planned out and everything, but this was lots of me just talking to myself for a while until I could really feel this out. But that book was a huge asset to me in sales, because that's one thing that I want to continue to improve is my sales skills. I would not say that's a natural gifting of mine. So this was a great starting point. And I'm hoping that the call script that I developed is useful for other designers as well. For years, LuAnn, I didn't even have a script. I was just like, I showed up with a blank piece of paper and I was like, all right, you want to hire me? Let's talk. I mean, I didn't even know it was a sales call. That sounds so silly because probably a bunch of people going, yeah, dummy, that is a sales call. I didn't know that. I thought it was just a call. And so this has been part of my process, and this has really, really helped nurture people and get them confident saying yes very quickly, which is lovely if you've ever had to do call after call after call and have people not move forward.
No, I love it. I have to say, it's so funny because I'm going through the roster in my mind of the various designers that I've coached, and this is sales. It's storytelling. It's relating. It's letting people visualize themselves in your process. And what's the number one way to do that is to share the way somebody else was in your process. And for me, what I know is the more you do something, and the more you know, because you've created a duplicatable process, the more you know how the processes can be described in a story, and the more you can share the outcome. And what I do instinctively, and what I've been teaching the designers that I've worked with, is make up the story if you don't have it.
Yeah.
All's the person. Maybe the name was Susie and it was Sally, and maybe it was, a bedroom and it was a bathroom. But the idea is that you don't make up what you deliver. You don't make up your process for delivering it. You must understand and you must know what that is. And you don't make up anything that's tangible. But if you wrap it around a story, it becomes something the person can visualize themselves going through. And that's the part. You see, you have to know what you do, how you do it, and how you deliver it. But after that, you just want to, to me, it's like, you know me with my restaurant analogies, right? Because the stories, it's like the story. You can visualize yourself in it now. I can make the most amazing, filet mignon and put it on a plate, but how do I present it? Do I have the beautiful vegetable next to it? Do I have a sauce that's dripping over it and it's placed just right? Do I have whatever? Your filet mignon is your process. It's the way your business runs. But the way you present it is all the beautiful ways that you let the person relate to what it's like to be in your process. And that comes through the story. And it is that offhand, for example, like you remind me of another client I had a few years back.
Yes.
And blah, blah, blah. And it's boom. And for me, it comes so natural for me, but it is one of the things that I've learned. And I shouldn't say it comes so natural. It comes from a lifetime of studying sales. Okay. All right. But it can be learned is the point, and it can be taught. And that's interesting that that's what you learned in that book. I didn't know. I've never heard of this book. I don't know. Why wouldn't I ever have heard of an Introvert's book, right?
I can't imagine you're out seeking that kind of literature.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. It does. I am surprised to know that you're an introvert, but I hear it when you say it. It's like, this feels like one-on-one. This is me and you having a conversation, and I understand that. And also what I've learned very much there are a lot of interior designers that are introverts, way more than I ever would have thought. Okay. Number one. And number two, that one of the characteristics of an introvert is not so much that you can't come to a conversation and be animated and be engaging, but it's that requiring of and protecting the downtime, right? And protecting that recharge time, right?
That's exactly it. At night, maybe not so much right now with the current situation, but at night, my husband's like, I'm going to go out and meet some friends for trivia night. I'm like, I'm going to sit on the couch by myself. Great. We're both thrilled.
Right.
Let's do this.
Yes. Yeah. So, and it's funny. Somebody also shared with me one time that an extrovert gets juice from other people, whereas an introvert gets sucked dry by other people, right? And there's only so, right. And that's like, for me, especially when you can see me in action, if you've ever followed me around at High Point from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, I can be in between sessions, literally looking at, whoever's sitting next to me going, I'm starving. I haven't eaten. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. And then, new people walk up and it's like, just plug me in. Boom. Okay, let's go. I don't even remember it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't happen because I truly, truly do enjoy the energy that happens with other people. So anyway, very, very interesting. And there's one final thing that's interesting on the information that you sent me is that when you did the exercise of analyzing your favorite clients and projects based on which were most profitable and the best experience for you to execute. And of course, with that information, you figured out what they had in common, and then you updated your website and social media to attract these people. But then you had the line in here that they were all how do you say the word? I always say it wrong. Enneagram number 3. So first remind us what a 3 is and what is that, right?
Okay. So I'm going to start by saying I actually hate the Enneagram. I've never gotten it.
Okay. I've only filled it out one time. I don't really know a lot about it, but I know what it kind of is,
Yeah. So working through Matthew Pollard's stuff, he's got some great free resources for business owners. One of the activities I was doing was, figuring out what my best projects were, not just from a profit standpoint, but that's important, but also that it was the best experience. I mean, I enjoyed it. I would want more of them. And that narrowed it down to 4 women. And I got thinking about each of them. And I was like, I wonder if there's a commonality in personality types. Maybe it's Myers-Briggs, maybe it's Enneagram, or another one. So I emailed all 4 of them individually and just said, hey, you're one of my favorite clients. I loved working with you. I've been noticing there's some common threads between my best projects. I was wondering, what's your personality type?
Wow.
And they all got back to me, and Myers-Briggs all over the place. So that wasn't a common thread, but I think 3 of the 4 knew their Enneagram type, and they were all 3s. And the 4th one didn't know her type, but I could have told you she was a 3, even with me not knowing much about Enneagram. Turns out I am as well. And so I started digging into that, and I realized Enneagram 3s are performers, high achievers. They tend to be entrepreneurs and leaders and vision-driven and ambitious. And all of us, it all made sense. I was like, of course, like they value professionalism. They want to invest their money and hire people to do things to make their lives easier because their time is limited, because they are juggling careers and family. And I was able to literally do some research on the Enneagram. This is all new to me. I have been resisting the Enneagram for years. And I just started looking at some of the wording that kept coming up in that description. And I've started tweaking my website with that. I've started tweaking my content with that, and just really niching down, having the courage to do it. Because for years, my slogan has been bust out of boring, or helping you bust out of a boring home. Well, that's kind of specific, but not. And just recently, I realized it's not you, it's helping high achieving women bust out of boring homes, because that really is who my best clients are. So I never expected to get that result from doing that exercise. I've done stuff like that before, and I'm like, well, they're all women. They're all really nice. But this was the first time I went like, oh, I wonder if there's something there. And it turns out myself and these 4 women, we have a lot in common, and that's why we work so well together. So it's been nice to have a literal sort of guidebook on here is how Enneagram 3s like to be communicated with, and here's words that describe them. And it's been small tweaks, and I'm hoping that it's going to just continue to attract the right people because they will see themselves more in me and my website and all my copy and know that they are the right fit for me.
That's brilliant. I love that. That is, and the funny thing is I'm so accustomed to that train of thought in attracting and hiring people to work for me. So my cousin Eileen Hahn, who I've mentioned many times on the show, and she's a co-author in the 2nd book and will be again in the 3rd book. And she's a leadership consultant, and she's an organizational behavioral consultant as well. And her superpower truly is not only building productive teams, but helping individuals find and be in the best career job position for them so that they wake up every day happy to go to work. And so with this mission of working with business owners to create those teams, right? How do you have the most productive team? Well, it's comprised of people who are perfectly suited for the job that they're doing. It makes sense, right? How are you as a designer so happy with the jobs that you do because you're working with the types of clients and projects that you want to do, to your point. And so we use the tool. So we use a personality profile tool because the kind of person that is going to make an outstanding, exceptional installer for WindowWorks is not the kind of person that's going to make an outstanding, exceptional salesperson.
Right.
The attention to detail that an installer needs to have is off the charts. Whereas as a salesperson, a little attention to detail would be great. You know what I'm saying? But, and the salesperson needs a high level of persuasive personality, of outgoing personality. And an installer, he can go in the house, say hi, and you can leave him alone for 8 hours and he'll come out and have the job done. So it's very specific, just like you're saying, that we do. And when you do this and you follow this methodology, you really are able to create a well-rounded team where everybody comes to work and feels fabulous because they're all meant to do what they're doing. And to take that to searching. So where I was going with it is how we further use that is to your point. When we put an ad in Indeed, we don't just have a generic come to work at WindowWorks ad. So if I'm hiring an administrator that needs a high attention to detail, we're calling out all those things. Do you get off on, having all of your ducks in a row? And, is it rock your world when all the spreadsheets are great, right? Whereas if I'm hiring a salesperson, it's like, do you love to be outgoing and meet new people every day and blah, blah, blah.
That generic copy that like, okay, I guess I'll apply for this job and you're going to get a bunch of crap.
Right. And so I love that you are applying it to attracting the client to you. That's so genius. Just the little tweaks of what are the words and phrases that the typical 3 in the Enneagram is. Enneagram. I always say it wrong.
I don't even know.
Yes.
We could both be right.
But I love that. That's brilliant. I love that. And what I'm saying with that whole big long thing is that it is a standard business practice when building a team and attracting the right talent for the team. So why wouldn't it work for prospective clients as well to use the language that the 3s respond to? So smart. So smart. It's like the Pied Piper putting out the little breadcrumbs for the kids to come. It's putting out
the right bait.
Yes, exactly right. And by the way, what's so funny is what I love about that is this is where I love when you study sales, because when you could say, oh, putting out the right bait. Oh, okay, we just crossed into a callus. No. Because the client that's a 3 wants to work with you because you get them and understand them. So it serves them too. That's the ultimate win-win. When you take apart good sales strategies and you put them to work for you, they honor your potential client as much as they honor you, right?
Yes. I've heard it said before, you either want to attract or repel people. You don't want to be somewhere in the middle where people come to your website or your social media and they're not sure what to think about you. I'm fine with repelling. I mean, I get it. I have a half-shaved head and piercings and tattoos, and I don't look like I belong in Central Georgia, but here I am. And I think there's some people that find me and they're like, yes, that's my girl. Right. And there's others that are probably like, no, thank you.
Right,
goodbye.
Right.
And that's fine. That's great even.
Right. See ya next out of the lane. That's my line.
Bye.
Next out of the lane. I love it. So smart. So good. I mean, again, you've just come so far in your business, and I love the hindsights and the learning lessons and the tweaks that you've made. And I do think that the first episode, number 37, there's many things in there that are going to stand up. So the combination of the two episodes bookending each other is a great thing if you are starting a business or moving to a new location. Lots of information. So you might have to do this in 4 more years and see what new horizons you've conquered then.
Gosh, I'm hoping I'm still here. I do not want to do this again, but yes, a 4-year. I'm sure it will be light years different than what it is today. It always is. I'm always looking to grow and evolve and do things better.
Right. But when you said, just to clarify, what you meant is you hope you're still living in the same place 4 years.
Yes, I will still be doing interior design. I hope I am not moving across a country again. I'm good here.
That's it. That's awesome. Well, congratulations on the success and the clarity that you have in building your business. And I'm looking forward to watching you continue to do it, Lesley.
Thank you.
When I first met Lesley, I was really blown away by how bold she is, right? Do you remember she cold pitched me, and she was only 1 year into her business. And what I remember was it was a good pitch. Okay. She is a true go-getter. She decided what she wanted. She struck out on her own. She went after. She didn't let anything stand in her way, whether she was moving, starting over again. She is the kind of person who knows what she wants, and she goes all in to get it. This is an outstanding trait, okay? I also find it so interesting that she had never considered herself the entrepreneurial type, okay? When I hear her speak and I listen to the ideas that she comes up with, I listen to the way that she thinks outside the box and how she attracts her ideal client to her. Well, I beg to differ. I definitely think, Lesley, that you are an entrepreneur. And I love the story, right? That one story when she knew she had to start her own business after putting so much into creating the perfect shot. She was so proud of it and excited. And the creative director just walks in and says, I don't like it. I mean, that's a crushing situation, but she didn't let it faze her. She just decided this was the moment. I'm going to be the one calling the shots. And this actually reminds me of some of the guests that have come into the design world as a second career. Others who knew what they wanted and they took the leap. Okay. If you are looking to be inspired by more stories like these, I suggest you go back to episodes 203 and 330 with Darla Powell. All right. Darla is a former Miami-Dade police sergeant. Okay. She is now an interior designer. She is owner of Wingnut Social, which is a marketing company that specializes in the interior design industry. And she is the host of the podcast Wingnut Social with her wife, Natalie. And this is one of my go-to every week podcasts that I listen to. First of all, I adore Darla and Natalie, to be sure. But their content is amazing, and they're just funny. I crack up. I drive along, walk along. I crack up the whole time. So highly, highly encourage you to listen to this podcast. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, Darla is also one of the co-authors in my next Power Talk Friday Experts book, which is coming out in November 2020. So how is all of that for a courageous leap, right? I mean, Darla's really walking the walk. And then I'm also reminded of episode 167 with Kelsey Gross of Farmer's Daughter Interiors. I love this lady. I have to tell you, I just love this lady. I've met her many times in life. We sat together at a conference, and then she has come to my Power Talk Friday events. And when I just think about how she told me that she used to ride her tractor on her family farm in Canada, week after week listening to the podcast, saying to herself, someday I'm going to be an interior designer. I just love it. And you have to listen to the episode. And please check out her website. Incredible blogger, Kelsey is, an incredible designer, and has really created a nice business. So, these are great inspiration stories if you are maybe side hustling now, or you just need a little shot in the arm, right? And the other thing I also remember is Lesley told me in the first episode that she was coached by Kim Cutable, who was also a guest on my show, episode number 73. And Kim is a branding expert, among other things. Okay, so check that out too. Now, Lesley now coaches designers herself, as you heard her say. Designers who are in the same category as Darla and Kelsey, designers who are coming into the design world as a second career. We all know it can be tough to break into design, but Lesley helps you overcome this and transition into the industry, okay? So please check out her Badass Biz Bundle for one-on-one in-depth coaching with Lesley, all right? I also love that she includes the documents you need, all the things that you have to do and get under your belt to get focused on doing your business. So check her out at Lesley Myrick, MYRICK.com/coaching. Everything will be in the show notes. Don't worry about it. Okay. Lesley is an innovator, right? She's an innovator in the way she approaches her business and comes up with new ideas on how to market herself. And our show sponsor, Kravit, is also at the forefront of innovation. They are taking their skills and making it easier than ever to customize your furniture. You can take your business to the next level with their program, Kravit I Create. This program allows you to easily design your own furniture in just a few simple steps. Create your own chests, tables, ottomans, benches, beds, upholstery. Just a few clicks. Go to kravit.com and sign up for your trade account today. All right. Don't forget about Lesley's freebies. She's got lots of them. And also, because she gave so much valuable advice here, and it was really sort of like a to-do list of advice, we have put it together for you on our goodies page. All right. So go to LuAnnNigara.com/goodies, where you can get your list of, it's like your little cheat sheet on what to do after the episode, after listening to the episode. Okay. So it's clear how much effort Lesley has put into building her business from the ground up. And the truth is that no matter where you are in business, it's, doing the work. It's the only way to get to the next level is doing the trial, the error, the iterating, the learning, the changing, the growing. All right. If you find yourself in the thick of it, reaching for that next level and having a challenge in any particular area, please always look to what's happening next on my platform. Okay. So right now we are soft launching LuAnn University. We've got 5 courses coming out in the fall. And so the topics that we're covering are design build for profit, increase profit, increase confidence, 2 courses on cloud-based accounting, intro class to get you set up and comfortable with QuickBooks, and the 201 class for the next level of understanding the QuickBook reports and how to use them as a tool to manage your finances. And then later in the fall, Sarah Lynn Brennan is going to be back with Process Leads to Profits again. All right, so go to LuAnnNigara.com, click on Events and Coaching. All of the courses are there. They're also in the show notes here, okay? So we are in early bird registration now, all right? So don't delay, okay? We're going to say, it's crazy. It's the end of August. I mean, seriously, where did the summer go? And these courses are launching in September. So don't get behind the 8 ball, all right? Make sure that you head over to LuAnnNigara.com and check out Events and Coaching. All right. Thank you tons again to Lesley. It was so great to have you back on the show. I love hearing the changes that Lesley and other designers make as they grow their business along the way, okay? And I hope that you have come away from this particular show with some steps that you can take to network and attract your new clients into your business, all right? Thank you for joining me today. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.